The Ultraman Blazard episode 1 and 2. Um,
What'd you think of it?
I was not expecting. So going into it, I went in a week late, so I've already seen some things online for it, and everyone was like, "Oh, like it's changed the tone and all this stuff." So I mean, I'm going in like not really knowing what to expect. So the person that ended up being Ultraman wasn't the person I thought was going to be Ultraman. So that was already one change. They actually did go with the serious military guy. And I was like pretty surprised that they went with that instead of like a more comedic, like learning to be a hero type of guy.
Yeah.
And on top of that, Bazanga as a kaiju name.
Yeah.
I love it. And this is probably one of the
Bazanga.
coolest kaiju designs you've gotten in quite a while.
The kaiju designs are great, and Gatos from episode 2, awesome design. They've been killing it with these kaiju designs. Yeah, to me, this I haven't seen any modern Ultraman series. I have been watching from the beginning, starting with Ultra Q. I am currently on Taro. The only modern Ultraman series I've seen is the anime, which is
Doesn't
different.
count.
It's
Yeah,
different.
it's
It doesn't
different.
count.
It's not
So
the same
so
thing.
so the tone of these episodes was much darker than I'm used to. Like it was like serious, like military, like usually there's a lot of like goofy stuff going on in between. Um it was very modern, believable. To me it felt like, going from Showa Godzilla to Heisei Godzilla. Like there was some campy Showa moments, and then Heisei was just boom, stone faced the whole
Yeah.
time. That's how this felt. This first episode, very serious.
That's a good comparison. It did. I definitely did get, maybe because it was just that night. I did
Yes,
get
it was
I did get
darker.
Godzilla 84 vibes from this.
Yes, it's darker atmosphere, super military to start off with. Very different. Like like I said, I'm used to the show Ultraman. It always starts off with like kind of like your regular average Joe kind of like our first one, he was with the Science Patrol in an accident. Second one was like a copy of a guy that rescued people in the mine. That was Moroboshi. Third one was a race car driver.
Yeah. Well,
Fourth one was a bakery delivery man
so in
and a
Decker,
hospital nurse.
which is what I watched last year. I watched like the first 15 episodes and then life happened, so I didn't get to finish watching that series. He was a sweet shop worker. Like
Oh,
he sold candy, like his
the,
family owned a candy shop and he worked in the candy shop.
yeah,
And the only reason Ultraman picked him to be his avatar was because he was like at like some like cosmic airport, and he ended up trying to save like some guy that like some military guy that like was about to die, and he like tried to sacrifice himself to save him.
yeah.
So he picked him as like his champion. But
Yeah,
like, and then he joins Guts, and he like slowly learns how to become more of like a hero type of thing. But again, he's a
Yeah.
very goofy character,
Yeah.
which is kind of the shtick.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so
yeah,
Yeah, so like I said, yeah, this is like a more serious guy. Like he's all of these new people is like a rookie on the plane, and this guy, this host, Captain Gento, is just kind of like leaned over like this, and like, what's he doing? Is he worried? Is he nervous? They're like, no, this is what he does before all his missions. He gets focused, and they do almost like in Godzilla 2014, they do like this halo jumping. They jump out. They have like
it
these
was
rocket
awesome.
boosters. It's almost like how Moroboshi was in the Ultra.
Yeah, very
That
similar.
anime
Like
with
those
the
arm
rocket
rocket
boosters.
boosters.
Yep.
Yeah,
Really cool. They kind of just like land in the city with them, and they're just using guns on this Bazanga who's just attacking the city. All these military operations. They have rocket launchers. There's another team that gets hit. They were in a building above Bazanga. They get hit, and Gento decides to just go up there and check on his teammates. And while he's attempting to rescue one, the dude passes out, and then just the Blazar henshin device just appears on his arm, and then he's got this coin, and he kind of has like this energy just pulling his hand with the coin towards the thing. He puts it in, becomes Ultraman, and he just kind of begins fighting Bazanga. And during this fight, we just see like this one random girl kind of appear. She's like getting orders. She shoots
But
a rock.
she's wearing like street clothes though.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
is clearly not a part of the military operation.
yeah. But in episode 2, we learn about her. It's Emmy. So she's part of some sort of military operation. She fires this special rocket at him, which Gento and his team were supposed to shoot. I believe the plan was to shoot at Bazanga's face, but their instructions somehow ended up being between the chest plates, and it didn't work. It was not effective. So she shoots a rocket, helps out Ultraman during this fight, and the fight's really cool. It's like an at-night fight. What did you think of the fight?
So first off, one thing I wanted to gloss over was before he becomes Ultraman and tries to save the guy, he does like his eyes closing thing again, and he sees a bunch of visions.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if that was supposed to be like he has precog-ish abilities, or if that's his masterful tactical brain.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what that was supposed to be.
I wanted to bring that up too. I thought that was kind of a odd moment, and they didn't do it in the second episode. So I don't know if that was like his brain, or maybe was it like Ultraman already like, hey, I'm gonna help you out and give you these visions. I didn't even know what that was. It was a bit odd.
Yeah, I couldn't tell whether or not that was him using his technical brain and him trying to figure out what to do, or if he had some type of psychic ability, or if Ultraman was helping him out. They didn't really explain it at all.
Yeah, he had like these visions, and like nothing that happened in that vision happened in the show, though.
Yeah.
So, because he took a different path than what was in that vision.
Yeah. And then so as far as what I thought about it, I initially did not like the design of Blazar. I thought it looked stupid. I didn't like their blue and red stripes. And the second he transformed for the first time, I was completely sold.
Yeah.
On it. I was like, this looks awesome, especially at night.
Yes.
He transforms and you like the red and the blues like just like flowing through him.
Yeah.
Just for a little bit. It wasn't the whole time, but I was just like, okay, this is cool.
And the reveal too, the way they revealed that too, because he transforms and he's behind a building at first, and Bazanga sees him and he just sees like the one half of his face, which kind of looks like your normal Ultraman design. It looks very plain, normal, dark, and then he steps out from behind the building and he's got that extra like horn or whatever you want coming out of his head. He's got the glowing stuff going through him. It's like, oh, it's not just like a plain Jane like guy standing behind a building, and it's got this crazy look to him. And the fight shots are really cool.
I thought the grunting was a little weird, but
it is. It was something a little. It was very. He's almost like. He almost sounds like a kaiju. Almost, he sounds like an animal. Like
there's something like
the way he fights is like
altered.
very animalistic. Like usually all the fights and Ultraman sounds from what I've seen in the show era, they're always like like it sounds like almost like a guy like yelling into like a can almost. Like it's like echoey. But this sounds more like like grunty, and
they're definitely going for a different feel.
Primal.
So to me, it did feel a little bit more like the older Ultraman series in the sense that it was the grunts, but they were altered somehow, like more digitized. Or
it sounded like primal to me. It didn't sound like. Yeah. It sounded. He sounds more like an animal, honestly, to me.
Yeah, but then on the other hand, so on the newer Ultraman series. Like, at least for Decker, I can't speak to the other ones, but at least for Decker, you have the main character's internal voice the whole time, and he's working with Ultraman Decker. Like, Decker's kind of instructing him on what to do in the fights, and he's also, like, consulting with Decker and be like, no, I think we should do this, or... And there was explanations to his powers and what he was doing. No explanations in this first episode.
We still don't really get a ton of explanation in the second episode either.
Yeah.
But basically the fight ends with Blazar pulling out a Blazar Spear, which seems like it's going to be his signature move.
Which
No, like crazy beams or anything.
this was awesome.
It's
Like
sort of a beam. It's like, yeah,
this, so he sticks out his palm, and like a black hole appears,
yeah,
and then this giant lightning spear comes out, and he grabs it.
yeah.
And like I was like, what?
Yeah, well, like a Blazar kind of is a black hole, and the whole design is like that spear thing shoots out of it, and then like a quasar is when there's four of them.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's a really cool design because like the spear like doubles as like his beam.
yeah.
Um,
And
and then
you can go. You can continue.
you go, no, you go, you go.
Well, one thing that they did notice in the fight, which again they didn't. Again, there's no commentary during this fight at all. Was his limiter was blinking?
Yeah,
Which I feel like I haven't noticed that in quite a while. But like they didn't commentate on it. But I was just like the whole time I'm like, okay, like it's blinking. Like
you're supposed to know, I guess.
yeah, I mean, I guess like 50 years in, you're supposed
It's
to be
like
like,
if you know, you know.
yeah, if you know, you know.
Yeah, the limiter does go off during the fight. They like you said, there is no commentation on it. Yeah, he defeats Bazanga, and then the way this series seems to be going with the first two episodes is it kind of ends with something teasing the next episode. So with the show era, I'm kind of used to just the episode, everything being all wrapped up neatly and over. Each episode seems like it's going to the next. So this episode one ends with Gento gets kind of pulled into a meeting and gets told he's going to become the captain of SCARD, which is a newly formed team. SCARD stands for Special Kaiju Reaction Detachment. Yeah, so he becomes the leader of this special team, and it kind of just abruptly ends like that because he thinks he's going to get disciplined for this happening, and it turns out he's not. He's getting rewarded for it because in his eyes, he thought the operation didn't go that smoothly, and they're like, "Well, we're glad that you critique yourself that way." And I think that's one of the qualities that they liked about him is that he's very hard on himself, which is why they made him the captain of this new team. And for me, no Ultraman host that I've seen show a series has ever been the leader of the team. It's always been just some guy on the team, always getting in trouble for disappearing. I'm pretty sure every show Ultraman host has gotten kicked off the team once or suspended or put on leave for some sort of shenanigan. This was the first time they became the captain. They're going to be the one kicking people off the team, if anything. So that's episode 1. And then we go into episode 2, which kind of continues right off where we left off. He gets told about all his different team members, and he's kind of got to go around and pick them up. And we learn that Emmy, the random girl on the roof with a rocket launcher, she's one of the team members. She's sort of the comic relief for this series. She's very goofy. He goes around with her. He's at lunch, and she kind of just comes over, sits at his table, and he's like, "Oh, you're supposed to be on the team." So she comes with them. They kind of joke around. She's very goofy. And then we see a little cut to a group of fishermen. They're talking about they haven't caught anything in days. There's a lot of pollution, and it's not ideal conditions to catch fish anymore, and where they're fishing in the ocean. And then we see a rumbling in the ocean, and then it cuts, and you assume they get attacked. Kind of cuts back to headquarters. Gento's still going around picking up his team. Emmy's going along with them. He goes to the first place, and the guy quickly signs the sheet. It was one of the pilots that was helping out Gento in the operation with Bazanga. And then he goes to the next place. The guy's fighting in a dojo, and he's got no place to sign, so he signs on Gento's back, and the pen punches through the paper and stabs on the back. And he's like, "Oh, that hurts." And then Emmy's kind of like laughing at him, and then when they're walking out, he stabs her in the back with the pen too. So we get a little fun there. And then he goes to another area where they're doing work, and they're looking for another one of their members, but he's not there. He got pulled for a special assignment weeks ago, and we'll find out about him at the end of the episode. Um, so they all get. He picks up all his crew. I believe there's four of them at this point, two females, Gento, and the other male, and they get to their car, and it's just like a plain Jane van. They're like, "This is it," and that's another thing about this. Like, Showa series, all the vehicles are always like over the top, like super extra looking. I mean, they were campy looking. I don't know what they've been modern day. I know they were a little cleaner. Taro, the vehicles, they were, to me, seemed like they were like, oh, we're gonna just go extra extra on this. They're like out of control, like crazy Taro. They look like clown cars, but yeah, it's just a plain Jane white minivan basically, and they're like, yeah, this is our team's vehicle, and they go to the base and they have all these cool guns, and Gendo's like, yeah, this get used to these. He's like, I haven't even touched them, and one of the team members is like, oh, I could go bot out the van. I'll put all the equipment we need in there. So while they're in the base, she goes off to do that. They get a little news broadcast that a freight ship has been attacked by a kaiju out in the ocean, and we see one of the fishermen from the boat goes, "Oh, it was Gatos. He comes up from the sea every couple of thousand years to eat and get his. If he's angry, he'll come up, and then he'll eat all the fish in the village and return to the sea." And one of the team members does some research, and he's like, "Yeah, that seems to be what the ancient texts say, that Gatos would rise from the ocean, attack fishing villages, eat all their fish, and return back to the sea once he was pleased." So Gento orders a team to suit up, and they're like, we don't even have a full team right now or equipment. We don't know what we're doing. So they go down to the harbor, and the military's carrying out their own operation. The Navy failed. They sent submarines. Those failed. And Gatos is just heading for the harbor. So they kind of head down there, and once again, his henshin device shows up. He becomes Ultraman and begins fighting Gatos. And one of the other things I forgot to mention is when they go to the van that was getting modded out, she's like, oh, all the equipment was already in the van and modded out. She's like, I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, it's got armor plating, bulletproof glass. They're like, somebody modded the van while I went out to go buy this stuff. So they're like, we don't even need it. And he's like, all right, well, we'll get used to it on the way there. So he becomes, like I said, we're back to him fighting Gatos. Pretty cool fight. This time it's in daytime. It's in the harbor. Gatos is crazy fish. It's almost like a deep sea fish. It's got the little lantern type thing hanging from its head, the tendril. It's got a big vent on its back that it blows heat out of to maintain its body temperature. It's basically a giant fish with legs and hands. And one of the old fishermen is like talking to Emmy while she's just kind of like helplessly watching. She's like, I don't know what to do. And he goes to run. He's like, I'm going to go take it out. And she's like, how are we going to do it? He's like, the same way you kill any fish, with a big spear. And she's like, no, I think you should stay here. So she holds him back while Blazar's fighting Gatos. So Blazar's just about to pull out his Blazar spear, and Gatos sees his spear forming and jets for the water and dives underwater. And Blazar, I'm thinking, oh, is this going to end in a cliffhanger where Gatos survives, or he just flees to the bottom of the ocean? He's happy he ate what he wanted to eat. No, that's not how it ends. Blazar then takes a spear and almost like tears it and makes a fishing rod, a Blazar fishing rod, and he casts that Blazar energy into the ocean and hooks Gatos, and he does a whole fishing fight with Gatos to get him out of the water, and he swings him up into the sky. He flies out of the water, and then he spears him, and Gatos explodes in the sky, and he's gone. And then it kind of ends with the old fisherman being like, oh, you got to be careful, though. If we anger Gatos again, he will rise. And they didn't really touch too much on the pollution aspect of it, but, these first two kaiju, like Bazanga, they kind of like, boom, he's here. Like, he had no explanation why he was attacking. He just was a crustacean, another fish, two undersea kaiju back to back. And Gatos was at least attacking because of the pollution in the ocean. We got a little backstory.
Yeah.
And from there, we get our little after the episode tease. Again, Geto gets brought down underground by his commander, and he's like, "Oh, this was under our base the whole time," and they're like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Oh, why didn't we?" Whatever, what's going on? And the fifth member that they were looking for, that got called for the special job, was there. He's like, "Oh, I've been here working on this," and they're like, "Working on what?" And it's the big reveal of Earth Garen, and the commander goes, "Your first official order as Scarred is to defeat a kaiju before Ultraman Blazar," and that's when it ends. They have to defeat a kaiju with Earth Garen, and so we can expect to see Earth Garen next episode. So I'm really excited to see this mecha dino in action.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things I'm looking forward to is, are we going to get some type of Earth Garen Ultraman like team up form? I know it's not something that they usually do in the Ultraman series.
Yeah, it's more like a Gridman thing. But
yeah, but like, is that something that we could get? I know Ultramen, more modern Ultramen, have forms now.
Yeah,
but
it would be cool.
They never
really
combine
cool
with something else. It's always just like they have a red form, a blue form, and a middle form, right? Like, that's the usual. Like, so, but this one, he's already kind of red and blue.
No.
Like, are they? And then something that makes me think that this is going to be more of a reboot to the series is when Ultraman appears for the first time in the first episode. This is something I forgot to mention. Is like one of like the older soldiers is like, "Oh, that's an Ultraman." Like, I've heard rumors about them from astronauts.
Yeah,
they'll see them in space. So it sounds like Earth hasn't had an Ultraman in this series.
Yeah,
like to me, it sounds like this is almost like a soft reboot.
It could very well be.
So as far as we know, as of right now, Bazanga might be the first kaiju encounter of this Ultraman universe.
It could be.
And I know Ultraman is like a multiversal series, but like just as far as this one goes,
no, it's definitely a possibility. It is interesting. I mean, like I said, we haven't got a ton of details from these first two episodes, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what we are gonna get from this, because it looks like they're trying to weave a continual story through it instead of them being very self-contained episodes.
Yeah, it's not as
so
serialized.
far. It's leading into the next, and it'll right off the bat you're like, "Oh crap, where's the next episode?" Like, it's like, oh, if this is all out on like a regular streaming service, you'd be binge watching this if it was available all at once.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy with it so far. I think that they have a serious side, they have a bit of a goofy side, and I think they're going to probably try to weigh a good balance between that.
Yeah, almost like Shin Ultraman. There was a little humor in there.
Yeah, I think that's a good part for like a more mature audience. I mean, obviously, Ultraman at the end of the day, they want to sell kids toys. Like, just look at the Morpher, look at the Henshin device.
Yeah, the toys. They do on the YouTube shoot. They advertise all the toys. Which are all completely awesome.
It's what it's there for.
Yeah,
but if you want to bring in like a more, I think this is the way you bring in a more an older-ish audience, is that you do have stories set up like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to it, and we hopefully will be able to review a bunch of these. And Chuck, we have the next couple months, a couple of weeks are like really tight for us, so we might not get to review all the episodes. We might have to do something like this where we do like two or three at a time. But we're going to try to cover as much of them as possible, and I'm really dedicated to watching this. I'm going to catch up eventually with all the show series, and I'm going to get to modern day. But it's going to take years for that to happen. So this one, I'm making an exception for.
Yeah, no, I think this is definitely one of those to keep an eye on.